Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to the first postseason episode ever of a Colts podcast brought to you by Sports Illustrated and Horseshoe Huddle. My name's Brandon, and I'm joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Still stings, buddy. How are you doing? How's your week been? We are 3 days post Colts football 2021. It does not feel good.
Doesn't feel great. I'd much rather be talking about the Colts going up against the Kansas City Chiefs or even like the Buffalo Bills, anybody besides this. But hey, we're officially into the off season. We're officially into draft season, officially into free agency season. It's a wild time. And from everything that we've been hearing this week, and obviously the whole episode today is going to be talking about what General Manager Chris Ballard talked about today in his end of season presser. The people over there on West 56th Street at the Colts complex aren't happy, and they're not going to stand and let this go by without changes being made. And I think there's going to be some pretty big changes that happen this offseason. Definitely hearing from Frank Reich, Jim Irsay, and then Chris Ballard today. Leadership doesn't want this to happen again, nor should it. There really isn't an excuse. So big things this offseason for the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm excited to dive in about it.
Yeah, definitely some big things coming, I would say. Chris Ballard not happy. Real quick, though, first of all, make sure you go follow us at a Colts Podcast. If you're new here, make sure to go follow us at a Colts Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Hit the like, the subscribe. We just got done with our biggest episode ever, Andrew. The saddest episode ever. Biggest episode ever.
So shout out to everybody that tuned in
and shared. Shout out to the people that share this show, but also, yes, the people that
podcast, YouTube. The show was blowing up, and I think Colts fans are ready to talk about and see what's going to happen next. And our third member of the show, as always.
Will you not steal my thunder?
Hey, I gotta be producer.
Very sorry about your current situation. Producer Brandon here, not letting writer Andrew take over the production here. We hope you feel better, man. We hope your test is negative. And we hope you, your wife, and your daughter are all okay.
Very good job, Brandon.
Gosh,
Producer Brandon.
Why do you think I haven't put up what the episode's about yet? Why do you think that is, Andrew? Gosh, give me a minute. Yeah, there are some overreactions to talk about probably. Andrew might be one of them. I might not be one of them. But a ton to talk about. Chris Ballard talked for 66 minutes today. The Colts didn't even release the transcripts, because it was so long. So Andrew just pissing and moaning that he had to actually watch the video and get quotes from listening and doing an actual little bit of reporting.
Getting spoiled here.
Yeah, he's been spoiled boy all year. Let's start with this. Chris Ballard says, basically, in his exact quote, we have still reeling from the Jags loss. Specifically said, I've got to get the poison out, and I haven't yet. So that was pretty telling. Andrew, what do you think about that?
That's one hell of a quote. And I think pretty much everybody in the Colts organization is doing the same exact thing. I mean, I know last night in the final episode of Hard Knocks, which was a very tough episode to watch, they showed DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard meeting with their position coaches just on Monday. And they were so down about it, and they knew that everything was right there in front of them, and they just didn't get the job done. So obviously, Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, Jim Irsay, all of them are still fuming about this loss and about this collapse over the final 2 weeks of the year. And the players are as well. The players know that they didn't do their jobs. They know they messed up. They didn't perform to what they're capable of. And this is exactly what happened. What I say almost every single episode lately is any team can win on any given weekend. And the Jaguars embarrassed the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. It doesn't even matter that they were 3-14. even if you're playing another team, a playoff team, and you get beat 26-11 like that, that's still an ass whooping. You can't go into a game like that and expect to beat anybody. And because of that, things need to change. And this loss is going to stick with this Colts team for a while, and I really think it should. And they should use it as fuel to not let this happen again. This wasn't even a Buffalo situation where they played better than the team and just didn't make a couple plays. All three phases, they just got obliterated, and it just wasn't good enough. So I'm glad that this is still affecting him, and it really should. They should use this as motivation all off season, so this never happens again to this team.
And I mean, he should be upset about the loss to the Jags.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it comes up again in the middle of the press conference, I feel like, and there was a moment where, I mean, he was so mad and upset. I mean, he had to take a second and gather himself again, showed a little of the emotion that he admitted to everybody. You know, you guys see me up there in the press box. You know, I get emotional during these games. I thought for a second maybe we were going to see a tear out of Chris Ballard. He was so upset. But he goes into, you know, the next section, I guess we could say, and goes into the questions with a level head and says up front, we're going to take the next month and a half. We're not going to make any rash decisions. We're not going to do anything crazy. That's in regards to coaches, I'm sure, players, a specific player for sure, along with other decisions. But we can't get around. And I mean, this was such a big. Are we done with the Jags? Can we please be done with the Jags? Okay.
Let's be done with the Jags.
You know, we can't get around the comments about Carson Wentz. I hadn't watched it by the time you had. You and the guys from Sports Illustrated Horseshoe Huddle are all already talking about how, oh yeah, Carson's gone. Like it's I'd be shocked if he wasn't, by the way Ballard was talking, yada yada yada. So I watched it with that in mind. And I was curious to see what you guys saw. I still didn't come out of it going, you know, my opinion was not, oh, he's gone. You seem to think otherwise. What did you think about Ballard's comments on Wentz? I will say the one thing at the time, when we made the trade, at the time, when we did this, at the time, what do you think about all this?
It doesn't sound like, I'll just come out right there with it. It does not sound like Carson Wentz is going to be the quarterback of this team in 2022. I mean, you mentioned it, Brandon. Chris Ballard said at the time they felt this decision was the right decision and they don't regret it, but he has to be better. The passing game has to be better. I don't know how many times he said that throughout the press conference. The passing game has to be better. He said that there needs to be stability at the quarterback position. And they thought they had that until the end of the season. Just the way he talked about Carson Wentz. And I think what really stands out to me and why I think that now it seems more than likely Carson Wentz won't be the starter for this team or even on this team in 2022 is just looking at the different ways that Chris Ballard and Frank Reich have talked about the previous quarterbacks for this Colts team since they've been there. I mean, obviously, Andrew Luck is Andrew Luck. We don't need to kind of dive into that. But when you think about like Jacoby Brissett, even though Jacoby Brissett wasn't great by any means, and when you look at the advanced stats, Carson Wentz pretty much had one of the a very close season to what Jacoby Brissett did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But when they talked about Jacoby Brissett, they talked about how much he meant to the locker room, how much of a leader that he was, how big of an impact he had on this team. When they talked about Phillip Rivers last year, Frank Reich came out and said it and said, as of right now, I want Phillip Rivers to be my starting quarterback in 2021. Yeah. And Chris Ballard, in his end of the year presser last year, said that we'd like to have Phillip Rivers back.
Yep.
You don't hear that right now. Frank Reich, who pushed to get Carson Wentz on this team last spring, he comes out and when he's asked, he says, I'm not going to comment on who's going to be on the team and who's not. That's big. That's just not anything, especially when he vouches for Phillip Rivers last year, says he wants him on the team, and it's just a complete 180 this year. I mean, he obviously doesn't throw Carson Wentz under the bus. That's not Frank Reich, and honestly, that's not what a good head coach does is throw his players under the bus to the media. That's why some of the coaches we're going to talk about later, why they're getting fired. Anyways, but when you hear that, and then you hear Chris Ballard say that he's not going to comment on anybody being here on the roster or not on the roster next year, that doesn't bode well. And I've got a specific quote here from Chris Ballard today about Carson Wentz that I really want to share. And it's just really telling. And I think it was about not only Carson's play style, but if he just the things that can he get better and can he be the long-term solution. So Chris Ballard said, let me find it here. Yeah, Chris Ballard was talking about like Carson did some good things, and there's a lot of things that he needs to do. Our passing game has to be better. And here it is. We'll look at everything. There's solutions. Sometimes they're not ideal, but there are solutions. Sometimes they're long-term, sometimes they're not. When you're talking about that seems like Carson Wentz could have tried. They tried to make him the long-term solutions, but sometimes they're not. Situations aren't ideal. Like if the Colts cut Carson Wentz, because you know for a fact Carson Wentz is not going to be traded this offseason. I don't care if Bill O'Brien becomes the GM of another team. Carson Wentz isn't going to be traded this offseason.
Dude, how awesome would it be if Bill O'Brien got hired as the Texans head coach? Side note.
Oh my gosh, I don't think he wants anything to do with that organization anymore. Nor should anybody for that matter. Right. But anyways,
I'm sorry.
Carson Wentz, there's no way he gets traded this offseason. And so what does that mean? If the Colts want to cut ties with him this offseason, there's a $15 million dead cap hit. So if Carson Wentz is cut, that means $15 million it's already guaranteed to Carson Wentz from the Colts. They can't use that $15 million to, even though Carson's not on the team, they can't use that money to go out and sign another player. However, if they do cut Carson Wentz, it's a $15 million dead cap hit, but then the rest of his $28 million salary, $13 million, it gets added to the cap. So, and here's another thing where Chris Ballard was talking about where the situations aren't ideal. He also talked about Mike Bloom, the Colts cap guy that really takes care of all that. It says we're in a very good situation, and money and the cap wouldn't affect any of their decisions this offseason. So what does that tell me? That tells me that the Colts don't give a damn that if they do cut Carson Wentz, it's going to be a $15 million cap hit. If that's what they have to do, they're going to do it. They're going to bite the bullet, take it for this season, and then Carson Wentz is completely off the books, whether he is kept or he is cut for the 2023 season. He's completely off the books for guaranteed money.
Did you just explain dead cap space? Did I
did.
Out? Okay.
I did explain
dead cap
space. If anyone needs me to talk about that, just put it in the chat. But it just from things that were said, and I tell you this every year. I tell the listeners this every year. In these end of season press conferences, Chris Ballard will always leave little nuggets of what he's thinking, what the team is thinking, and the direction they're going to go. That's why I think this is one of those nuggets. He wouldn't say these things if he didn't mean them in a certain way. That's just how Chris Ballard is. It's how he's been for 5 years now.
And I'll tell you, Andrew has been damn near spot on with a lot of his analysis on Chris Ballard pressers. I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is gone, but I'm telling you, he's been pretty spot on with these predictions in the past.
Well, I'm not even guaranteeing that Carson Wentz is gone, but I think it's very likely that Carson Wentz is not the starting quarterback in 2022 for the Indianapolis Colts. And what's obviously this is probably a discussion for another time because we don't want to keep everybody here all night. But what sucks is there's just not very many other solutions out there besides Carson Wentz. And that's a huge problem. I mean, the free agent market doesn't look great. Colts don't have a first round pick in the first place. And even if they did, the quarterback group in this draft class isn't near as good as in the past couple years. There's just very limited options out there that you can go out there and replace Carson Wentz with and expect a huge increase. Now, there are some quarterbacks out there that you might get more consistency out of. But are they going to be that talent that they can win you those games? They can take over those games and win it with their arm. There's just not that many guys out there right now.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, we agree. We don't see many options either. I don't know what we would do. And Tyler, I think I'd like Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. I'd be happy to bring him on as a coordinator. Big fan of that idea. But not firing Frank. They're not going to fire Frank. It's just not going to happen.
Nor should
That's
they.
not going to happen. Listen, here's the thing with Ballard. I mean, what I'm upset about, and maybe this is better talk for the end, probably, anything else that sticks out. So never mind. I'll wait. There were comments about just needing to be better in the passing game and rushing the passer. We talked a lot about rushing the passer. Especially in recent weeks against Carr and Trevor Lawrence. And obviously the passing game. And I mean that as Wentz season is always hounding. It's not just Carson. It's not just Carson. We need another receiver, in my opinion. I think it's also, really difficult to just go find a receiver. It's not that easy to find a guy. What do you think about his comments on the passing game and the pass rush? Russell, by the way, hold on. I saw the dumbest tweet I could have seen all year. Trade Carson to the Texans and a second and a third for Deshaun Watson. Please delete your Twitter account. I don't understand. Russell Wilson ain't coming to Indianapolis. Aaron Rodgers ain't coming to Indianapolis. And it's not because of the team, but those guys don't want to be in Indianapolis. Those guys want to go somewhere big. I wouldn't be shocked if Russell Wilson ended up in New York.
Russell Wilson has a no trade clause in his contract, so he would have to waive that to go to be traded in the first place. And I don't think he's waiving his no trade clause to go to Indianapolis. I think if he does, it's going to be to go to New York, where he's in a big market with his celebrity wife, or he's going to go to Sean Payton and the Saints, which is it's not necessarily a big market in New Orleans, but you've got an offensive genius down there. So that Russell Wilson is not waiving his no trade clause to come to Indiana. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was spot on. He said the passing game needs to be better and the pass rush needs to be better. This is a passing league. And we could talk about Jonathan Taylor all we want, and we're not taking anything away from Jonathan Taylor. He is incredible, the best running back in the league, and he proved that this year. But at the same time, the teams that are winning the Super Bowls aren't the teams with the Derrick Henrys, the Dalvin Cooks, the
Le'Veon Bells,
the Joe Mixons. It's a passing league. It's just a fact. You need to have a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I mean, you think of the last Super Bowl winners. I mean, when was the last time a non-elite quarterback won the Super Bowl? I mean, we can't count Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's elite. So
Joe Flacco is elite.
It's hard to think about. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. You think of Aaron Rodgers,
Nick Foles, elite.
Nick Foles, but so I mean that kind of ruins my whole argument because Frank Reich was on that team. But you get what I mean. You need a quarterback to win in this league, and not only that, you need weapons for the quarterback to throw to. Yes, Michael Pittman Jr. has ascended and has become a number one wide receiver in this league, I feel, but when you have everybody going over to the side with Michael Pittman, you have then who else do you have to go to? Zach Pascal. I mean, Zach Pascal number 3, wide receiver 2. Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. T.Y. Hilton, we probably have seen him play his last
Paris Campbell
game.
made it through a game.
He made it through a game. Wow, that's
game.
That's his 15th in 3 years. And then the thing is too, as far as free agency goes at the wide receiver position, I don't know if the Colts are really going to make a move because it doesn't seem like Ballard puts a premium on the wide receiver position, especially in free agency, because you're going to have to pay a lot of money for these guys. Could I see someone going over, or could I see the Colts drafting a wide receiver in the second round? Absolutely, I could. And pairing them with Michael Pittman, and then that's how they go. Absolutely, but I don't think free agency wise the Colts will go after a wide receiver. I do think that they do want to get more veteran pass rushers on this team. I mean, they talked about Kwity Paye coming on, and I think Kwity Paye is going to be a very good player. Dio Odangbo, I like to see him with a full offseason health and him getting more playing time. I have high hopes for him. But then you talk about how Tyquan Lewis, Ballard mentioned him. Ballard mentioned Kamoko Toure. He said we second round picks, we need more production. And then he said it's on him because he didn't get all 8 of those guys out there. So I don't understand, or I don't see the Colts really going crazy in free agency on a wide receiver per se. But I do think the Colts will be on the hunt to add more veteran pass rush presence and more veteran talent to this pass rush group so they have a more consistent and a better 8 to go forward.
Oh, I love the internet. That's hilarious.
For the
Rock just had the best season of his career. And Kwity Paye is a rookie who has done nothing but get better each game.
For
Maybe
the pod,
the last 2.
For the pod listeners, Stats Matt said I was told Kwity and Rock both need to be cut over the last couple days. So yeah, I think Kwity has established himself as someone that the Colts are trying to build around, and Rock Ya-Sin took that next step to be one of our outside cornerbacks for the foreseeable future.
Well, and he said, I mean, Chris Ballard said exactly what you just said. I think Kwity Paye's got a chance to be really good, and he just said straight up, like, Rock played phenomenal football this year. Mm-hmm. He's really excited about Blackman. So the problem, I don't think the problem's on that route. Now, Kwity Paye is in the line of people who you already paid, you already paid Grove. You're right.
But Grover Stewart's not making huge money. I mean, he's making 10 million
Buckner
a year.
is.
Buckner's one of the best players in the league. He's worth it.
That's
21 million a year average.
Right. And I understand their tackles and nobody's Aaron Donald, but I mean, those guys should be influencing the pass rush a little bit more. Those guys should be relieving pressure from these young guys on the edge. So yeah, I think adding another veteran presence, I mean, Ballard basically told us, I'll get somebody in the offseason to add veteran presence. That's the vibe I got off of his comments there.
Right. And I think it's almost a little bit of the opposite. I think these guys on the edge need to get better, and we need to have more pass rush off the edge. So it takes away from the double teams that DeForest Buckner is receiving and all the attention, because DeForest Buckner as an interior lineman, I mean, yeah, he's a phenomenal player, easily top 3 middle or defensive tackle in this league. But I don't think if you want to be successful like that, he can't take 3 guys. But DeForest Buckner, again, led the Colts in sacks with 7 this year, and he had 9.5 last year. DeForest Buckner from that interior lineman spot should not be leading your team in sacks. You need to have Kwity Paye start to come on, and I think he did, because after week 10, once he got that first sack, Kwity Paye led the team in sacks. So it's starting to come together. We saw flashes from Dio Odangbo, but you got to remember, he's coming back from an Achilles injury, number 1. Number 2, he's trying to get still acclimated to the league. So it's going to take him some time. That's why with pass rushers, you tend to see this. It's from that either the first year to the second year, or from that second year to the third year. You see a huge jump in production because the game slows down for them. They're able to hone in on their skills, create more of a plan when they go through the pass rush, and that's when they're able to attack the offensive lineman.
Well, and I'm not saying that those guys on the edge shouldn't take away attention from, the guys in the middle. I'm saying the fact that the guys in the middle are currently taking up all the attention, guys on the edge should not be struggling so much. And that's Kwity Paye included. But again, rookie, we've got Odangbo. He's young, and I'm excited about him having another full off season as well. But I do think I would predict we're going to see somebody in there, during this free agency period. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a veteran presence.
Hot take, I do think Tyquan Lewis gets re-signed. I think he gets maybe a 1-year prove-it deal coming off that injury. I think Tyquan Lewis is back with this team next year.
What about this one? Rumor is they want Teray back on a cheap 1-year prove-it deal. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess. But
I mean, I certainly think they will offer Teray. It'll just depend on the market because I'm sure there are other teams out there that see his pass rushing skill set, and if another team goes there and offers him more money or a bigger role on the team, I'm sure he would probably think about that and probably take that. But yeah, I think the Colts would like to have Teray back as a situational pass rusher because even in his situational pass rush role, he had 5.5 sacks this year. So you could see him finally have a more healthier year and start to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks.
Well, according to my Madden simulations, Teray is eventually going to be a Carolina Panther. So we'll see what happens there. So Chris was pretty upfront about positions he's interested in upgrading straight up, and left tackle is obviously one of them. He tried acting like Eric Fisher is still going to be on this football team next year. No, he's not.
See, I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe that
I know what he said. I think he was full of shit.
I got the vibe Eric Fisher was gone, and I think he said that. I mean, while he came back from the injury, and he did have some moments where he played well. I mean, I think the writing was on the wall when he was benched against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he even said later in the press conference that he thought Matt Pryor had a chance to possibly be a short-term solution, and obviously if he plays phenomenal, he could be a long-term solution. But here's the quote about the left tackle position. Ballard said, "The left tackle is what the left tackle is. We short-term fixed it. We still have to be looking for a long-term solution here. And we have to short-term fix again because the long-term solution doesn't show up, that's what we'll do." So again, I don't think the Colts are going to force it with the left tackle. I think they are going to re-sign Matt Pryor and bring him back. So, and honestly, I think that's a great move because Matt Pryor showed that he could be a serviceable left tackle. Do you want him to be your left tackle in the future? Probably not. No. You want to get someone better in there. But I just don't see the Colts going after and putting a bunch of money for a short-term fix at left tackle. If they're going to have a short-term fix at left tackle, it's going to be someone like Matt Pryor, maybe someone like Riley Reif that's out there. I saw some people talk about Taron Armstead from the Saints. If they don't retain him, I'm sure that would be a pricey deal. But we'll just have to see. And again, with the Colts not having a first-round pick in this draft because of the Wentz trade, it's going to be interesting to see how the draft board falls because I think there are some pretty good tackle prospects that the Colts could possibly get in the middle of the second round. But again,
I cannot go through another draft analysis about left tackles again. You want to talk about the most boring positions to break down?
But it's one of the most important positions in all of football.
I'm aware.
So that, I mean, obviously they want to upgrade the left tackle and they are in search. Again, I don't think Eric Fisher is back with this team, and I think he kind of made that clear in his presser without just coming out and saying it. And then here's one that I 100% agree with. He said the tight end position needs work. He said, depending on what Jack does, because Jack Doyle could retire after this season. He said that's still in play. But Mo Alley-Cox, his contract is up. He'll be a free agent. And he said, we like Mo. We'd like to get Mo back. And then we've got a young kid in Kylan who we thought showed some things and he'll continue to grow. So obviously they probably want to get Mo Alley-Cox back. Again, it's going to depend on the money. They're not going to overpay for Mo Alley-Cox, nor should they. Mo Alley-Cox isn't an all-pro tight end. Here's a place that I think the Colts might actually dive into free agency because I was looking earlier today and one name stuck out to me that won't necessarily stay with his team that he's currently on, but he'd be a perfect vertical threat and a good receiving option in this Colts offense, a guy that Frank Reich could really use, and it's Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons.
Kyle liked him a couple years ago.
Kyle Pitts has pretty much taken over there, and Hayden Hurst he was up there a couple years ago in touchdown grabs there in Atlanta. So Hayden Hurst, that athletic receiving tight end option, possibly come on over to the Colts and help fill that
Younger
role.
than Zach Ertz, I believe.
Younger than Zach Ertz, a little bit more athletic. Who knows? But just the way when he says that the tight end position needs work, that's big because I mean he went through and he said the wide receiver position, we like the young guys. He said obviously they like their running backs, we like our linebackers. We need to get 8 along the defensive line. He said they're always looking for cornerbacks, but they feel Rock took a step. Isaiah Rodgers grew up. Kenny Moore's a Pro Bowler. He talked glowingly of Julian Blackmon. But he made a point to say that tight end needs some help and it needs some work. That's why I think if the Colts do splurge on a weapon in free agency, very well could be at the tight end position.
Zach Ertz isn't a bad idea. 700 yards between the Eagles and the Cardinals. But once how can we upgrade if tight end if Jack and Mac come back? Well, they don't both have to come back, and I know Frank or Chris wasn't really going to comment on it, but I wouldn't be 100% shocked if Jack wasn't back.
It almost seems like it's leaning that way. To me personally, and again, I don't know any insider information on this, but it seems like Jack Doyle and T.Y. Hilton will probably retire this offseason.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me. T.Y. especially. He didn't talk to the media much. He lied right to the media when they said, did you think about the fact that this could be your last time walking through that tunnel? No, I haven't thought. Yeah, he did. He thought about that on his way out for sure.
Yeah. And the thing is, if Jack Doyle does come back, I would welcome it because Jack Doyle is phenomenal in the blocking game. There were so many times watching the film this year where there was big holes opening up, and it wasn't necessarily Quentin Nelson or Ryan Kelly. It was Jack Doyle opening up that hole. So he's a huge part of what this offense wants to be.
Yeah. Did you get the vibe that there was anything else specifically that he wanted to upgrade? I don't think he mentioned anything specific.
I mean, besides the quarterback position, but we've already talked about
the kicking position a little bit. What'd you get on the kicking position?
For me, I think it's going to probably be a battle going into training camp again. It's going to be Hot Rod and it's going to be Batchley. And whoever comes out on top, whoever can consistently strike the ball, whoever can make it from long distance, I think that's who it's going to be. They said they like Rod and they like his upside. And he said that Batchley, while he had a good year, it wasn't elite. And I think the Colts want to have a kicker where when everything's on the line, they can trust it. And I don't know if they're there with Batchley yet, but I think it'll end up being a battle come training camp.
And I think him and Frank love kicker competitions in camp. I think, and I've, he says the thing about Badgley that's a perfect setup for a battle going into camp. So those two got to work hard. That position, you've got to try to create as much imaginary pressure as you possibly can to get the best out of a kicking competition. So I hope Hot Rod's able to work on the strength and kicking those balls a little farther this year because I think he's able to pull it off. Frank Reich. Ballard's 100% confident in Frank Reich. Did he mean it?
I think so. I think
100% confident in Frank Reich. 100%.
I really don't know if there's any other coach I'd want out there. I mean, that's not taken. Who else would it, like people? I see people comment all the time and complain like, fire Frank Reich, this isn't working out. Who would you rather have as your leader and as a leader of men, a guy that this team respects the hell out of, a guy that this team goes to war for and really battles? Something that stood out to me, and since you didn't watch Hard Knocks, it may not, you didn't see it obviously. But what happened after that loss in Jacksonville? Frank Reich stood outside the locker room, and as each player came in, he gave him a hug, shook their hands. Quentin Nelson gives him a hug and was just caught on the live mic. He goes, "Sorry, coach." Like, they felt bad. They felt they left Frank Reich down more than anything else. And seeing that their faces in the locker room as Frank Reich is talking, I mean, obviously they just had that loss, but to see those guys, they really felt bad that they let Frank Reich down. And this is. It's just not, you don't just fire a head coach and bring somebody in. This isn't Madden. This isn't fantasy.
Bad teams do.
this isn't fantasy football. You don't just fire your coach after 1 year. Look what the Texans did. This team was playing hard for David Culley, and then he just gets the axe today because of their idiotic ownership and general manager. That's not what that good organizations do. And when you have a guy in Frank Reich that I know Carson Wentz didn't light the world on fire, but this is his 4th year with a 4th different starting quarterback. He made Jacoby Brissett look like a viable starter in this league. How many coaches could do that? Not very many.
Tyler will tell you from personal up close experience this year that he was not good on the Dolphins.
No, not very many people can do that. And so you're thinking, well, the Colts are in this such a perilous quarterback situation right now, do you really want anybody else leading that and trying to get a quarterback ready to play? I certainly don't. I don't think if the Colts hired Brian Flores that he'd be look what happened with Tua. That certainly wasn't a good situation there. You want a guy that's going to develop a quarterback, especially when your quarterback situation is in such disarray and you have no clue what the long-term solution is. I mean, hell, he even did good things with Andrew Luck. I myself am completely behind Frank Reich. I think this is exactly who the Colts need. I mean, shoot, Frank Reich was getting coach of the year consideration towards the end of the year before the collapse. So I really don't understand why people think that Frank Reich should be fired.
Real quick on this one, Andrew, changes to the offseason program Chris mentioned. What are we talking about here?
I think it really bugged Chris Ballard that the team wasn't in for the full OTAs, full offseason program. They were in for a couple weeks in May, no pads on, and it was very light practices. And then they had all of June off up until training camp began in July. I think something that's going to be it's going to be heavily on the minds of this Colts brass and the Colts leadership is they got to stop getting off to these slow starts. They can't keep digging themselves in such a deep hole and having to climb their way out of it just to have a shot at the playoffs. It is exhausting. And I mean,
those games against Buffalo, the Patriots, Arizona, I mean, that took everything out of that team. I think that's why we come out so flat.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why. It's not the whole reason, but it's certainly part of the reason why the Colts didn't play very well the last 2 games. They've got to start out fast, and that includes off-season programs. That includes guys staying healthy in training camp and being ready to go 100% full speed when it's time to go for the start of the season. It's getting the guys the necessary reps in the preseason as well. You can't just go through the motions and expect to be ready. I mean, I know they did it in the COVID season, but everybody did. When everybody's not on the same playing field and you're choosing whether to do it or not, it's going to hurt you. And I think that really irked Chris Ballard. And he said today that we're going to have an off season. We're going to have OTAs. We're going to have mini camp. And if the people don't want to show up, fine. But the people that want to win, they'll be here. That's a big message to that Colts team.
2 comments here. Could have won the division both years without a slow start. Would have easily won the division both years without a slow start. And Wentz season saying the slow starts because of Reich always starting over with a new QB. This is why we need Wentz to come back. Don't totally disagree with that. It definitely plays a factor. There's no way you can be you could say that's wrong. I mean, you can't sit there and say that comment's wrong. That's for sure. So need Wentz to come back. I don't know. I think it still makes the most sense in my mind because just because of the money situation and the way Chris Ballard is so good at handling the cap space and his team. But yeah, I mean, the comments don't look good.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, at this point I really don't know what route I would take if I was in Chris Ballard's spot. But what I'm telling you guys and what I'm seeing, how I'm reading the tea leaves here is from the comments of Frank Reich and Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard, it just does not seem likely that Carson Wentz will be the starter of this team come the start of the next season. And when they're talking like this, it's kind of hard to talk like this about your quarterback and then expect the locker room to really be behind him 100% as well.
Last thing, the thing that sticks out to me, Andrew, it doesn't appear to be, no doubt in Chris's mind on the process itself. But you know what? Every year it's We're not a Super Bowl team yet. We're not a Super Bowl team yet. We're not a Super Bowl. I didn't think we were ready. At what point are we finally, how long does this go until we're ready? Because it's 5 years in the making now, 4 years with the same head coach. Of course, he can toss out 2017. It happened though. We got to draw a line somewhere and go some accountability somewhere. Changes need to be made. Something needs to be done, because you can't just keep saying you can't have your owner talking about we're going to win multiple championships before I die, and a GM that's saying, which again, I love Chris Ballard. I'm in no way insinuating we got to toss Chris Ballard, but Chris Ballard, he says you got to be, whatever you believe in the beginning, you got to stay true to what that is. Otherwise, do you believe in anything? Well, you need to adjust. We need to be put in Super Bowl situations. We need to at least be a contender.
And I think I think one big thing solves that, and it's getting the quarterback position right. And I'm not going to fault Chris Ballard and Frank Reich. I see a lot of people out there saying that they shouldn't have traded him, or that they should have held for Justin Fields. We've already talked about how that's an idiotic
losing
comment.
Quarterback.
And the thing is, I don't fault Chris Ballard and Frank Reich for going out and get Carson Wentz. They tried, because they sure as heck weren't going to win with Sam Ehlinger or Jacob Eason or Jacoby Brissett. They went out and made the move. Right now, it doesn't look like it's going to work out. I don't know. 2022 is going to be different with Wentz, or if they get a different quarterback, who knows? Obviously, at this point, it's the second week of January. But I don't think this Colts team is going to be able to compete legitimately for a Super Bowl until they get the quarterback position correct. And that's just 2022 in the NFL. It really is, because when you think about who are the main contenders for the Super Bowl this year, you've got
Chiefs,
the Chiefs with Patrick
Bills.
Mahomes, the Bills with Josh Allen, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, Matthew Stafford and the Rams. All of these teams have very good quarterbacks. And then you see these young quarterbacks coming up. Justin Herbert, who even with Justin Herbert, the Chargers didn't make the playoffs, but then Joe Burrow, like Mac Jones looks like he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. Ryan Tannehill, I mean, you can bash Ryan Tannehill all you want. The dude makes plays. I mean, he plays winning football when he has to. You got to have a good quarterback to compete in this league. When your quarterback isn't playing, Chris Ballard even said it. Let me find this.
There's only one bad quarterback in the playoffs this year.
Who's that?
Okay, two, if you consider Big Ben bad now. Jimmy G. Two okay quarterbacks in the playoffs.
And Jimmy G, I mean, he even took a team to the Super Bowl. So he's not he's obviously not terrible when he's playing. When he's playing, well, yeah. Well, the thing is, Kyle Shanahan has a losing record without Jimmy G. So but anyways, you just have to have, you got to be solid at the quarterback position. You have to have consistency at the quarterback position. And if you don't, this team's not going to compete. So
you know what else you got to do?
Until they figure that out, it's not going to happen, I don't think.
You know what else you got to do?
What's that?
We got to move it along. Jonathan Taylor nominated for 2021 FedEx Ground Player of the Week award. Jonathan Taylor, another announcement, is going to win that award.
Did you say Player of the Week? Because it's Player of the Year.
Player of the Year, sorry.
Yeah, he's not going to win that award.
Okay, yeah, he's going to win that award. That's enough on that. I mean, it's kind of like the last two games that he rushed for 100. We're like, yeah, Jonathan Taylor rushed for 100. Not the last game, but the last two that he did. Bears have requested, and we'll just tie these two together, to interview Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus for the vacant head coaching position, and assistant GM Ed Dodds and director of college scouting Morocco Brown for their vacant GM position. You gotta, in my opinion, you gotta hire a GM before you hire a head coach. Why are you interviewing head coaches already? Hire your GM and let him interview your head coaches.
That seems the right way to do it, but I mean, it's the Chicago Bears. But I mean, hey, especially Ed Dodds and Morocco Brown, those two are all stars, and both think. I mean, Ed Dodds has been getting interviews for the past couple years for GM spots, and he's been very choosy about that. And I think Morocco Brown is going to do a phenomenal job as a GM in this league.
Well, I'm sure Chris Ballard has said good things to those gentlemen about the Bears organization as a whole.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And on Matt Eberflus, say what you want about the guy, and trust me, we have said some shit this year. I was ready to give up on Matt Eberflus at one point, but yeah, I mean, Chris was right today. 2 seasons, I think, in a row, top 10 in points allowed.
Well, something I found interesting, and we won't get into it too deep, but he did talk about how the completion percentage and different things started to come down when the Colts started playing more man-to-man at the end of the year. And when you have guys like Rocky Sin, who's a physical corner, Isaiah Rodgers, who's pretty quick, but he said Matt Eberflus is looking into it. The Colts could be playing a lot more man-to-man here as if these young corners start to excel with it.
I sure hope so. Wide receiver coach Mike Groh has interviewed for the Panthers offensive coordinator position. Careful, pal. Tread lightly.
See, Mike Groh was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles in Carson Wentz's last year there, so he has some experience as an OC.
Okay, interesting.
Go on. Let's go on to our next topic here. The pick'em standings for 2021, Brandon.
I'm trying to find. There it is. So Andrew by one game in the final pick'em standings, 170 to 169. We both had over 100 losses, 101 and 102, 63 and 62%, right? That's a lot closer than we were last year. I smacked the shit out of you last year. So,
well, hey,
good for you.
I won the fantasy.
Congrats.
Thank you.
You lost the fantasy championship.
I won the fantasy championship last year. You lost. You won, and you won the pick'em standings. I win pick'em standings this year. You won the fantasy, so it evens out.
Looks like our running back coach is interviewing for some positions as well.
I have not seen that, but I hope
Matt
the Colts
just said he just saw it.
I hope the Colts do not lose Scotty Montgomery. I think he's a great coach.
Agree. Or Bubba. Don't want to lose Bubba.
Do not want to lose Bubba Ventrone.
I do want Hard Knocks every year, just the Colts. What if teams just start doing that, like Indianapolis Colts films, just start doing that? But all right, we don't have time to shit around with that. So we got the Raiders at the Bengals this weekend. Andrew, who you got?
I think the run is going to come to an end for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, just an electric young offense. And they're at home, they're outside. I think this offense is just going to be too much for that Raiders defense. I'm going to go Bengals.
Joe Mixon, third most rushing yards in the league.
Thought he was second.
No, it's Jonathan Taylor after contact, Joe Mixon. And that gap was still quite large.
People forget
he's a
that.
good running back. I'm with you. Cool Joe Burrow's getting his first playoff win. I don't know what the bracket looks like because I've just not been in the mood for football this week so far. And I've been very busy as well. So I don't know what it looks like for the Bengals to get to the AFC Championship or even the Super Bowl, but the way they beat the Chiefs, they could do anything this off in these playoffs. So we'll have to see. But yeah, Raiders are going down. Raiders. Good. Boy, that was the most annoying shit too a couple weeks ago. Patriots versus Bills. Andrew, I like the Patriots going into Buffalo and getting a victory. I don't see Bill Belichick losing 2 out of 3 to the Bills.
See, I like that. But I don't like Mac Joe. I don't like a rookie quarterback. It is going into Buffalo to win a playoff game, and the Buffalo Bills put it on the Patriots in New England last time. So I'm gonna go with the Bills. I do think that Josh Allen will lead them to victory, and I think the Bills they're starting to finally hit their stride.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a gimme by any means, but Bill Belichick's going to put up a good fight, and I don't want to agree with you on every game anyway. 49ers, Eagles heading to Tampa Bay.
Nick Sirianni, man, you got a hard one for your first playoff matchup. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to keep up with them. Now, the Buccaneers do have a lot of injuries. That is true.
And no Antonio Brown.
and no Antonio Brown. But at the same time, the Eagles thrive on the running game. Buccaneers have a very, very tough run defense. So I'm going to go Bucks.
I think the Eagles running game, because of Jalen Hurts, is a little more unique. I don't remember if the Bucks played the Cardinals this year. I'd be interested to see if they did, how Kyler Murray did. I really don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I think the Bucks defense is going to be too much. If the Eagles had beaten the Cowboys last week, which I don't think they played everybody. Oh God, this is tough. I'm going with the Bucks because it's Tom freaking Brady. Eagles cover, Bucks win. That's not a bad call, Matt.
I think I like that call because Eagles or Bucks are -9.5. I think I'll go with that.
Bucks stomped Eagles in regular season. That was probably early though. They're a little different now, but we'll see. Steelers, 49ers, sorry. 49ers at Cowboys. I think I like the 49ers in this.
Oh, see, I'm going boys. I'm going Cowboys. At home, I think that Dak and this group are going to be ready to go. And I've seen the 49ers play in person. I know they're a different team. I know Deebo Samuel is hard to stop, but I like the Cowboys in this one.
All right. Steelers versus Chiefs. I think we're both going to head right on over to the Chiefs on this one.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger has been getting lucky with his continuing to play. And he said, hey, we're not supposed to beat him, so we'll just go in there and have fun. But I think the Chiefs will take care of business.
Stats Matt likes the Niners. Let's see here. We've got final game, Monday night. Is this the first Monday night game of the playoffs on ESPN ever?
It is.
Heyo. And I'll be here with Rams fan Chris Obendorf, watching his team, cheering for his team against the Cardinals. I'm going Rams just because that's who I want to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go Rams as well. The Cardinals, without DeAndre Hopkins, they're just a completely different team. And as long as Matthew Stafford doesn't throw the game away,
but hey, by the way,
will win.
JJ freaking Watt, what a freak of nature!
He's not human. So this man tore his bicep, tore his pec, and he's might be playing. It was this season, and he might be playing for the playoffs. Just absurd.
I thought he tore his labrum too.
Maybe.
Unbelievable. Yeah, good point, Matt. All right. That's it. Hey, real quick though, I want the Bengals, I want the Bills, I want the Eagles, I want the Niners, I want the Chiefs, and I want the Rams. So in other words, I just want the Bucks and the Patriots to lose. All my other picks are the teams I want to win too.
Right.
All right, moving along here. News around the league. I lost my mouse. I'm all whopper jawed in this new setup right here at my buddies. Let's see here. Bears fire head coach Matt Nagy after 4 seasons and 2 playoff appearances, 34-31 record. Bears also fire GM Ryan Pace after 7 seasons. About damn time.
Good move. I'm never a fan of Matt Nagy, especially how he just threw his players under the bus in the media. Seemed like he never took responsibility for how his teams were playing, and that's just not how you do it as a head coach. So good.
Also,
good
who wears a visor when they're bald? Who wears a visor, first of all, unless you're a woman tennis player or a golfer? But when you're bald, the circle? Hello? Anyway.
Make sure you put some SPF 50 on there.
Oh, shit. Dolphins fire head coach Brian Flores after 3 seasons, 24-25 record, no playoff appearances. It's also the first time a Dolphins team has had 2 back-to-back winning seasons in years and years and years. Dumbest move by any team this offseason thus far. And I don't see anything getting dumber than that.
I don't think that Brian Flores will be unemployed for very long. I think he will probably be a head coach next year with one of these teams that has an opening. If not, he'll surely find a defensive coordinator position somewhere.
Easily. Now, this one was one we weren't sure about. Vikings fire head coach Mike Zimmer after 8 seasons, 72-56-1 record, missed playoffs the last 2 seasons. They also fire GM Rick Spielman after 10 seasons.
Vikings just were over the mediocrity, and they're ready to win. And I think Mike Zimmer,
I think they have a team to do it.
They've got some talent. I mean, there are some areas that they need to improve on, sure, but they shouldn't be playing. And with how many 1-score games they were in and how many losses they had in those 1-score games, you got to change something up. And I think Mike Zimmer just kind of got stale in Minnesota. It's time for a change.
Looks like Matt's saying that Brian Flores and Tua had it out. Had a big fight. Says he wish he could have drafted Mac. Hey, guess what? He's right. You know, I mean, it's true. Tua stinks. So, Giants fire head coach Joe Judge after going 2 seasons, 10-23 record. I mean, just terrible. Giants GM Dave Gettleman conveniently announces his retirement.
They got to get things changed around. And I mean, I had been calling for it for weeks now. Clean house there for the New York Giants. Yeah. I mean, it's time to actually hire some competent people in there and actually rebuild this franchise from the ground up. I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they even traded Saquon Barkley at this point. So it's complete rebuild is needed there in New York.
Texans fire head coach David Culley after 1 season, went 4-13. You hate this move, but I kind of felt like Culley was a Band-Aid in the first place.
Which kind of sucks. If you're going to do that, don't hire the guy. I mean, I'm sure the Texans owe him now $22 million just still from being fired. So he's certainly going to make it to the bank. All right. But at the same time, like, those players played hard for him. With not very much talent, he was still able to make an impact.
Stats Matt with a good one. Finish up.
Stats Matt says Giants haven't brought an outside person to be GM since the GM that hired Parcells. Very interesting. And they had success there. So maybe they should think about it. But anyways, yeah, I don't think it was a good move. Again, this Texans franchise makes dumb move after dumb move.
Yeah, Stats Matt agreed with me there too. Jets and Lions coaching staff announced as coaches for the Senior Bowl. Whoop-de-doo. Couple of really high energy defensive head coaches though.
Gonna see Dan Campbell telling some college kids to go bite kneecaps off. That'll be interesting.
Awesome. Rams sign safety Eric Weddle to their roster with the injury to Jordan Fuller. He's been retired since 2019. I like Eric Weddle.
Eric Weddle was a hard hitter back when he played. I mean, I don't know if it'll be interesting to see how he plays since he's been out for 2 years, but I mean, the Rams needed to make a move for the playoffs here with their all-pro safety going out, so we'll have to see if it makes an impact.
Eric Weddle's going to bring the pipe. All right. Hey, again, thanks everybody who listened Sunday and since Sunday. Thanks for being here today. Stats Matt went season. Oh shoot! Now I can't think. What's that guy's name? Is it Mike? Mike Wazowski.
We had Tim in here.
Yeah, Tim Milliken.
We had Ben. Shout out to Ben. We had some good
Tyler. Longtime listeners. Thanks for being around all the time. Andrew and I kind of decided we're going to be probably a little fluid and flexible on recording nights. Depending on how the news breaks, but we'll probably be bringing you Wednesday or Thursday episodes, at least through the Super Bowl for a little consistency there. Looking forward to the playoffs. Go follow us at a Colts podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. That's the most important. Go leave a review on Apple. And until next time, go Colts.
Go Colts.
Let this moment become a cherished memory. And then remember, a legacy is only worthwhile when there is a future to fuel. God bless you, and God bless football.